Bitches, welcome back to my channel. Sincerely Sam with Sam. So I'm pretty excited because we have another book that we are going to be talking about today on Bookworm Bitches. So today's book is a book that I read for my book club that I've been telling you wonderful people about. So this book was picked by a member of our club. It is The Huntress by Kate Quinn. Now, this book, I had no idea what I was getting into. In Vancouver, it was surprisingly harder to get than I thought. Instead of using the library app, I ended up just going to Chapters and buying it, which I used to do all the time. I used to buy tons of books, which is why I have so many of them now, but I try not to do that so much these days, and instead I use a library app called Libby. And the Vancouver library had this book on hold for 8 weeks, and we only had 4 weeks to read it. So, needless to say, I had to find a different way of getting a hold of it. So, yeah, so I purchased it and then I read it. It's a lot more pages than we usually read for book club. Usually we stick to 400 pages, usually. This one here, so this book here is actually 530 pages. And that's not including the last couple of pages here. Normally, there's a few of us who don't have as much time to read, so we tend to pick books that have a little bit of a lighter page number, but this one here is about 531 pages, which is great. I had a lot of time in my hands. I started reading it when I went up to Penticton, which my video for that is here on my channel if you want to take a look. There are some goodies in there. I know it's a long video, but there are some really funny moments, including my fat butt trying to get off of a playground equipment and a thunderstorm, and anyway, that's not what this video is about. This video is about this book. So, The Huntress, Kate Quinn, read it for book club. It was not what I was expecting at all. So I didn't read the inside cover. I didn't read anything. When I saw the cover and everything, I was like, we'd been reading a lot of fantasy books at the time, so I thought maybe it was just another fantasy book with a huntress and, you know, something super empowering woman-wise, that sort of thing. That's what I thought. This is not anything like that. Well, female empowering to a degree, but it's definitely not what I thought I was going to be reading. Usually I would read the synopsis, the inside cover here, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm gonna put it down in the description below if you want to read the inside cover, but this is still a no spoiler review as much as possible, so if I put spoilers, I will put a little warning, but I'm gonna try to do no spoilers. Also gonna try and talk properly. Let's get into this book. So we are going to be using the 5 rankings that we normally do. I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up on what's this about. Again, no spoilers, but this is a book about Nazi hunting to a certain degree. So this book takes place in just after World War II. It follows 5 plot stories or characters coming together at the end. I love those kind of books. It goes back and forth between present and past, which I also like. So it surprised me that it was about Nazis. Not at all did I think that that's what I was going to be reading about, but by page 1 you're like, oh, okay, this is what I'm reading. So the great thing about book club is we do get to read a bunch of different books that we would not usually read, and this is one of them. So this book I wouldn't normally pick up or read if it weren't for book club. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with it. So I think I'm going to just go straight into the ratings that we've been doing for Bookworm Bitches and discuss things as we go. So we are going to be discussing pacing, storyline, characters, relatability, rereadability, and then of course the overall score. So first up is pacing. The pacing of this book is a little more normal, and it's a little more to the pacing that I am usually confronted with. So you have a little bit of a slow beginning, a little bit of a build-up, a little bit of the backstory, and then as you go farther into the story, the more it becomes juicy, the more you want to read more, and the pacing starts to pick up a bit. So overall, I would say the pacing is average. It is definitely normal. It's that slow, gradual build up to the epic climax at the end. So overall, I'm just gonna say that the pacing is 3 stars. Storyline. So the storyline, like I said, it takes place after World War II. You have several characters. This is where the non-spoilers come in. Okay, non-spoiler version. This story is about Ian and Tony and Nina go on a massive hunt to find the Huntress. The Huntress is a known Nazi who has done some terrible things, and wherever she may be in the world. So this story is enticing. It is very interesting. It seems like it'd be very crazy and convoluted, and it seems outrageous, but there's so much that comes off very authentic. So it's, like I said, about 3 to 4 characters and plot stories eventually coming together to create this one big overall picture. I don't know what else to say. Like I said, a few of the pacing things were an issue where you had to kind of push yourself in the beginning to read, but once you start getting into the juicier things, it was great. I think Kate Quinn did an excellent job with creating a storyline that had elements of truth in it, and yet, you know, this great depth to it. So I find the storyline to be 4 stars worthy. So that's what I've given the Huntress for storyline. Characters. Okay, so characters is next. So overall, obviously this book is filled with tons of characters, but we get to know 5 of the characters the most. You get to know Nina. You have Ian and Tony. Ian is British and Tony is American, but they are a team who go off into the world and find Nazis and send them to jail for their crimes. You then have Jordan, who is an American teenager who wants to be a photographer, and you have her kind of family and her storyline, which takes place in the present, and her new stepmom, Anna. So you have her new stepmom, Anna, who is of German descent. So you have Nina, Ian, Tony, Jordan, and Anna. So they are the 5 characters that you follow the most. They are super intriguing. They are definitely, I find that a lot of them have really good meat to grab onto, if that makes sense. That sounds, oh my god, that sounds super weird. I find them very relatable. You know, even though there are things that obviously I can't relate to a post-World War II. So like I always say, I like a character who is flawed and yet has things that you can root for, but overall is flawed. But like, even eventually when you find out who the Huntress is, you feel for her. You know, you have a little bit of an understanding to her character. I think I'm gonna read like this first little bit here. A great line that you see, page 1, is a great kind of representation of, I think, the idea behind how this character feels going forwards, and that way you have this thing that you hold on to, and you kind of it's an interesting thought process that definitely took me by surprise when you actually think about it, and I find it very, very true. So I'm gonna read it. There are no spoilers. It's just a statement, basically. So, but the war was over, and the victors had won the right to decide what was a crime and what was not, what was humanity and what was not. I find that very telling. I mean, it's true. Like, let's say, for instance, the Nazis had won. Crazy thought, but what if they had, right? They would, like, technically, they would get to decide who was right had they won the war, you know? They would have decided that Jews needed to be removed, you know? It's a terrible thought, but luckily they didn't win. And yeah, so I find these characters very intriguing, very flawed, very authentic, and Kate Quinn had the ability, for me anyway, I don't know if it was for anybody else, but gave me a sense of really knowing these characters. I loved their little quirks. Nina took a little bit longer to grow on me, but once we got a bit more of her backstory and a little bit more of her struggles and when she settled into things, I loved her. At first you think she's just this, you know, cocky little thing, but you see that she's got struggles. She's got, you know, all this depth that is really intriguing. And you have, you know, Anna, who's also, or Anna, who's also got a lot of struggle, who has a lot of very interesting backstory. And you have Jordan, who obviously is probably the most relatable, just because here she is, a girl trying to decide between going to school, doing what she wants, pursuing her passion, and doing what was expected of her at the time, which was to have a family and babies and all this other stuff. And so she had to decide, you know, that was her biggest struggle for the most part in the beginning, was, you know, where she feels comfortable and what she's going to do. So I find that obviously the most relatable to me. Anyway, I'll get into that part. But as far as characters go, I loved them all for very different reasons. I found them great. So I'm going to give the characters 4 stars, because like I said, there's always room for improvement, but overall I found the characters very enjoyable. Relatability. So I was talking a little bit about this earlier, about how obviously I find Jordan the most relatable to me, just because, I mean, she has the most relatable issues for most people this day and age, which is picking between your dreams and what's expected of you. Very common issue, I find. So obviously there's that. I was surprised that I could find relatability in all these characters for different reasons. You have Ian, who doesn't feel like he's done enough and wants to make the world a better place. He wants to do his part and feels like he's done something. And that goes the same thing for Tony, right? They feel like the war is not quite over and that they could do more. Obviously everybody wants to do good. Well, most people want to do good. And yeah, and then you have Anna, who I did find a lot of reliable points. Yes, she, you know, is from wartime. Same with Nina. They came straight out of a war, had a lot of struggles that I'm not going to face just because of the place that I am, and I'm very thankful for everything everybody does and the services they provide, so that way we can all be safer. So sure, in some of those regards, I'm not going to know how they feel, but deep down to their core, they have very relatable, very intriguing and authentic qualities and personalities that you can find anywhere. The whole story in general, it feels very real and authentic, even though it sounds absolutely crazy. Looking back on it and hearing some stories from actual people, it is entirely possible that all of this very well could have happened, and probably did happen to a certain degree. That was pretty interesting, and I really enjoyed that. So overall, I think I'm gonna have to give a 3.5. I mean, it's almost to a 4, but there are certain things that I can't relate to, but the people, they are real. Rereadability. So this is literally just a yes or no if I think that Huntress is a rereadable book. For some people, you know, over a 500-page book may not be rereadable because it's so long, but I think this would be a really good book to reread, because I feel like if you went back and you read through it, you would probably catch a lot of things you didn't catch the first time, and I feel like you would definitely, because you know how it's going to end, you can dive deeper into the motivation of characters and that sort of thing. So I think overall this could be a rereadable book. It may not be as exciting as the first time because you know how it's going to end. Yeah, I could probably reread this again. So I'm gonna say yes. This could be a rereadable book. So last but not least is the overall score. So like I said, I read this book for book club. I chatted it over with my girls, and we were all really pleasantly surprised with this book. We really enjoyed it overall. It gave us mystery, it gave us suspense, it gave us Nazis. None of us had ever read like a Nazi hunting type book before. And overall, like I said, we were all pleasantly surprised. We all enjoyed it. So overall, I would give this book 4 stars. I know what you're thinking, it's not 5, but I reserve those for very, very big books. I know you're probably thinking, you already gave 5 stars. Yes, and that should tell you that you should read that book. But this one is, like I said, I liked it. Definitely worth a go if you like reading mystery type books, or just like reading interesting stories. Overall, I like this book, would recommend, and yeah, so that's that book. But that's also just my opinion. So if you have a different opinion, or if you want to ask any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. Yeah, did you read this book? Did you like it? Is there something that I missed? Did I get something wrong? It is very possible. But for now, we're going to leave it there. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, hit the notifications so that way you are up to date whenever I upload a video, and we can chat about books some more. Until the next video, thanks for stopping by. Sincerely, Sam. Bye!